Hey everybody, wake up. This is Wake Up with Mark Joyner, episode number 97, and this is the 30-day morning person challenge, day number 17. And today we will talk about the exonerated Navy SEAL. Okay, so before I start talking about this Navy SEAL who was recently acquitted of killing an ISIS prisoner and everybody losing their minds with their opinions about this, let's talk about the morning challenge. So 17 days into it. I don't know how many of you guys have been following along with this, how many of you have not. I will tell you how following a morning challenge has been improving my life. Probably the most important thing that has changed in my life from by becoming a morning person is that I have been going to sleep much earlier and cutting off the amount of artificial light that I'm allowing into my eyes at nighttime. I personally notice a huge difference in the quality of mental work I can do the next day when I am not exposing myself to artificial light at nighttime. What that means is not doing binge watching, not turning on YouTube, not turning on your computer, not having any artificial light on at all, or if you do, wear some blue blocker sunglasses. Okay, that change every single time I stay awake late and watch crap on a screen or am exposed to artificial light, the next day I can tell that my mood, everything is degraded. My mental capacity is degraded. All right, when I cut myself off from artificial light around dusk, and I put on blue blockers if I have to be exposed to it. My sleep quality is better, and therefore my performance is greatly improved on the next day. Something I strongly encourage you guys to test out and try for yourselves to see if it helps you. Now, so this gentleman, I believe Edward Gallagher is his name. He is a Navy SEAL, and he allegedly killed an ISIS prisoner and was acquitted of the charges. Now, a lot of people are spouting off with their opinions about this. And let me tell you what I think about this situation. When I was in the Army, I remember, a bunch of the officers were brought together into a room, and we were forced to watch the film Casualties of War, which was, about sort of like a My Lai massacre type situation, if it wasn't about the My Lai massacre itself at all. Anyway, the My Lai massacre, if you're not familiar with that, was where Lieutenant Calley went in and basically led his platoon into massacre a village. Now, here's my opinion on this. Okay, so first, let me just tell you, when we watched this film, everybody in the brigade, all of the officers in the brigade were in this viewing room, and we were, going around the room, getting everybody's opinion, right? And the brigade commander was there asking everybody what their opinion was. And everybody was more or less virtue signaling. I would never have done such a thing. It was horrible, blah, blah, blah. When it came to my turn to say that, I said, sir, with all due respect, I don't believe I can know what I would do, and I don't believe that any of these gentlemen in this room would know what they would do either. In Vietnam, they were in a situation where they did not know friend or foe. You could go into friendly villages only to find out that they were actually harboring, Viet Cong soldiers who would then turn on you in a dime. I can imagine how those guys were losing their minds. Now, war is an ugly, horrible thing regardless. We shouldn't be running around killing each other on this planet at all. However, human nature is what it is. This is a fact of life for us. This has been happening, from the dawn of man. Man has been killing man for a long time. As ugly and horrible as it is the reality. And if you pretend like it's not the reality, if you come out with just like, hey, just peace and love for everyone, some angry person who has ill intentions is going to use that against you, is going to take advantage of you. I think that the only way to be truly peaceful on this planet is to prepare yourself for war. That is an ugly notion for a lot of people to consider. Many will disagree, but I think that is the only pragmatic way to look at it. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean you go out killing people indiscriminately. You become the Jedi, you become the warrior monk. You use those skills only in self-defense to take care of other people. You don't go out there and you don't murder people. You don't murder villages. However, when you're in a situation like Lieutenant Calley was in, I can't understand what events led up to his decision to do that. I can't understand what the psychology of those men were that brought them to a point where they felt like they were justified in wiping out a village. On the surface, of course it's wrong. Of course it's wrong. But how do we know what brought them to that point? How do we know that? In the case of this Navy SEAL, all right, this is a guy who has gone through some of the toughest training in the world. Navy SEALs are some of the best trained soldiers on the planet. To be a Navy SEAL at all, you have to be a guy with extreme mental toughness, extreme grit. You have to go through some very, very rigorous training. And I would imagine those guys were in some very harrowing situations. I don't know much about the details. I haven't read too many of the articles. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't trust the news, okay? Some news sources are going to slant things one way to satisfy their individual agendas. Some are going to slant it another way to satisfy theirs. Okay, so I'm sure on Fox you're probably hearing people sympathetic of Eddie Gallagher, and on MSNBC you're talking about what a horrible monster he is. I haven't actually seen the commentary. I don't know. I don't care. But I do see people commenting on it on social media as if they know what they would do, as if they know what is right and what is wrong. Y'all weren't there. I wasn't there. None of us know what the extenuating circumstances were. Yes, we could probably even read the court documents if those records are eventually unsealed. But can we even trust that the court documents are going to reveal the truth? To let you know how sticky this is, there is a great film you can watch from the great Akira Kurosawa called Rashomon. Kurosawa, some people believe is sort of like the Shakespeare of film. And by the way, he actually did some Japanese film adaptations of Shakespeare. I'm not too fond of most adaptations of Shakespeare, especially the ones that change the historical context and all of that. Kurosawa did it and it worked. It's amazing. I revere Shakespeare so much. I think anybody, wanting to adjust Shakespeare, I have immediate skepticism. Kurosawa is the kind of guy who could pull it off. So, you can watch his adaptation of King Lear, which is a film called Ron, which was absolutely amazing. It's a, beautiful world-class work of art in its own right. You can look at Throne of Blood, which was an adaptation of, I believe, Lady Macbeth. Anyway, in Rashomon, they had a murder that was conducted on a road. And then what they did is they showed 5 different versions of the event based on 5 different people's memories. And this is a great exploration of understanding how people can be in the same location, watch the same event, and get completely different impressions of what went down. And I think this is pretty obvious if we all think about it. If you go to a party, you go to an event, and then you watch something with your own eyes, and then people talk about it the next day, you will hear people argue about it. I was there too, and that's not what I saw, right? This is why eyewitness testimony is very, very sketchy, even in a court of law, because people don't remember things perfectly and they don't remember things the same way. So for any of us to be able to say that, this man conducting this act, whatever the context of it was right or wrong, or he made the right decision or the wrong decision, I don't think we have enough information to know. Even if you're reading an article that makes it sound, a very ironclad case of the fact that the guy, acted in bad faith, acted maliciously, we weren't there. We don't know if that article is painting the reality of the situation as it actually was. So, you have, different interpretations from people who were there. And then you have yet another layer of separation from reality when you have a journalist who certainly wasn't there writing their version of events, and they're writing that version of events such that they probably are writing it so that they can justify their own particular political agenda. I don't trust any news at this point from any source. Almost all of it is garbage. Almost all of it is agenda driven. Almost all of it is intellectually bankrupt because it doesn't take larger contexts into consideration, and it doesn't respect your intelligence by saying, hey, this is the information that we have now. This is our best guess. We don't really know what happened because we weren't there. No, none of it is telling you information in that way. They are telling you matter-of-factly that one interpretation or another is correct. I would mistrust all of that. Now, if you're going to walk away from this talk and think that I'm justifying a guy murdering a prisoner, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't know what happened. I don't know psychologically what led that man up to that. Maybe he actually murdered the guy in cold blood, but it's also possible that the guy saw, a bunch of ISIS soldiers, kill a bunch of his buddies, right? How would you act if a bunch of people that you had, a deep bond with? You don't know what kind of bond soldiers get together. I mean, even soldiers in peacetime bond very deeply. Soldiers in wartime, they have a bond that most people can't understand. And if you see people that you love deeply get killed, what kind of resentment are you going to harbor as a result of that? Now, does that excuse anything? No, but it informs some of the context. So I'm not going to comment on this one way or the other because I don't really have any idea. And I would just caution everybody who thinks that they know what happened or that thinks that they are entitled to an opinion to really ask, are you entitled to an opinion about an event where you were not present and where you have very limited, almost always slanted, agenda-driven information upon which to base your opinion? That's it for today, guys. You have a beautiful day. It is July 4th where I am in Thailand, and it's going to be July 4th for all the folks tomorrow in the United States when I broadcast this again. I wish everybody in the U.S. a happy 4th of July. Looks like we're going to have quite the shindig in Washington, D.C. this year. I know that is a topic of controversy itself. It will be very interesting to see what happens, what that event is like, because there are people who have mixed opinions about that. I'm curious to observe the event myself. I wish I were there to actually witness it firsthand, because I'm only going to be able to get secondhand information from the news about what happened, and I'm sure all of that is going to be agenda-driven and colored as well. All right, one way or the other, wherever y'all are in the world, whatever country you're from, I hope you have a beautiful day, and we'll talk to y'all tomorrow.